who probably thought her fanfares heralded the arrival of a circus. Disappointed that most of these tributes to Hygeia fell neglected in the dust, or were carried away on the wind, she wrapped each one carefully round a pebble, so as to achieve a more accurate aim. It was a time when the English were still a fruitful source of largesse, and the delighted cheers of her audience soon turned to angry mutterings, when instead of receiving sweets or coins, they imagined themselves to be the victims of an obscure practical joke. But Blanche does not easily relinquish an idea, and in spite of her husband's anguished protests, she continued to replenish her stock, until on at least one occasion Jack only just managed to keep the car a short head in front of a field of foreigners, enraged and armed with pitchforks. The pace became more gentle in Italy, although there were minor crises, such as when Jack refused to stop to pick up Blanche's favourite picture hat, which had blown off when they were bowling along after a frustrating series of punctures. In Florence they had arranged to meet Sybil Westmoreland, who was touring in a Delaunay Belleville with her maid and chauffeur, and they proceeded in convoy with her until they came to Sorrento. Here the three of them were most favourably impressed by the excellent service in the hotel. Before they had been in their rooms an hour, an abundance of flowers arrived with the compliments of the management. The food was superb, and the staff almost embarrassingly obsequious. None of them was particularly surprised by this solicitude, and had they been, it is unlikely that they would have thought of questioning Sybil's chauffeur. This excellent man, well aware that his status in the staff dining-room depended upon the rank of his employer, and doubtful if his personal conviction that an English countess outranked even the most grandiose of foreign titles was accepted abroad, had secured his comfort by a tactful interchange with the hall porter. When asked what rank was indicated by the coronet on the door of the Delaunay Belleville, he had replied, with a conspiratorial wink, "Sorry, cock, can't tell you. We're travelling incog." The following morning, Sybil, who in due course would become my godmother, decided to spend a lazy day recovering from the fatigues of the journey. Perhaps Blanche would have liked to do so too, but her husband was an indefatigable sightseer. Together they took the boat to Capri. She is an exceedingly bad sailor, but fortunately it was a calm blue day, for otherwise I doubt if he could have persuaded her to board the little steamer. On disembarking, they found the quay lined with militia in full dress, complete with band. Jack, not wishing to miss an attraction which had been omitted from Baedeker, approached the officer in charge of these gleaming ranks on the pretext of asking for a light for his cigar. The officer was not only obliging, but effusive, so Jack inquired in stilted Italian, which must unwittingly have indicated annoyance, "What is the reason for this display?" Instantly the captain's confidence, which until then had been as glossy as the cock's feathers in his hat, began to droop. A voluble Italian tide bore on its flood a flotsam of words that Jack could comprehend. Improbable as it seemed, there was no doubt that the man was imploring his forgiveness for an excess of zeal which had caused a flagrant disregard of their desire to remain incognito. It was a devilish awkward situation. Ought he to carry it off? But if he did, and the august persons for whom they had been mistaken arrived on the next boat? The Italian's limpid eyes seemed about to brim over in a freshet of tears. To an Englishman anything, even the risk of being incarcerated in a foreign jail on a charge of false pretences, was better than being involved in a public display of lachrymose emotion. "The incident shall be forgotten," said Jack hastily, and as this did not seem enough to restore calm, added, "forgotten, except as yet another example of the courtesy shown to us by the loyal people of Italy." As a further boon, he proffered a cigar, which the now radiant captain stowed carefully away in a pocket of his splendid uniform, saying that it would be a relic treasured by his children and his children's children. There was no holding him now. What could he do to show his gratitude? Mules were waiting to convey them to a villa of Tiberius, but would they prefer